who will win the pole and the front row for the Great American Race.
These fans have been waiting all winter long. Are you ready?
If you're fortunate enough to sit on the pole for the Daytona 500, it is a big, big deal. And you prepare for months to come down.
Daytona is the place where dreams can come true.
Nobody's holding back now.
Oh, Nelly, hold on to it, boys.
The intensity continues to ramp up. This is the biggest race of the season.
Jeff Gordon, he'll start the 500 from the pole. How about that? Joey Logano wins the Daytona 500.
Live from Daytona International Now Stadium. Cloudy skies with patches of blue. Greeting drivers. They will set the front row for next Sunday's Daytona 500. 40 spots in the field this year. A handful remain open, adding to the drama of Daytona. And one of the drivers of these cars will wind up on the pole for the Great American Race by the time the sun sets, even a little earlier here in Florida. We welcome you trackside with Michael Waltrip, two-time Daytona 500 winner. I'm Chris Myers, and you'll be racing in your 29th Daytona 500 today, or at least qualifying for that next week.
Yeah, you got to be in it to win it, and I feel honored and privileged to be able to compete again.
Well, and last year, Jeff Gordon won the pole at just over 201 miles per hour. It's going to be a little bit different today.
Yeah, but a lot of things are going to be the same. Look for the 24 car to be for one of the favorites when we roll off. Chase Elliott's got a really fast car. Last year, we were in packs and drafting. Today, it's all about sheer speed and how much finesse the driver can use to get that speed out of the car.
Jeff now in the booth. We're going to hear from him in a moment. Announced here that baseball's newest Hall of Famer, Ken Griffey Jr., will be the honorary starter for next Sunday's Daytona 500. You'll see it on Fox. And speaking of heavy hitters, they were going at it last night here in the Sprint Unlimited. On this track, 25 of the best drivers. Kyle Busch, defending champ among them. Joey Logano, the defending Daytona 500 champion. Brad Keselowski led early, lap 13. Denny Hamlin gets into it with Ricky Stenhouse Jr.
How about Hamlin laying back to keep it safe? That didn't work out. Stenhouse loses the tire, spins around, collects Hamlin. Hamlin, luckily, was able to charge on.
Repaired the car, led the most laps. Brian Vickers in the 14, filling in for the injured Tony Stewart, creating a 7-car wreck, which involved Earnhardt Jr. and Harvick, Biffle and Boyer, and then Jimmy Johnson spinning out on the backstretch here on lap 44, his 5th consecutive DNF in the Sprint Unlimited. But Denny Hamlin in overtime making the charge.
What a great move late in the race for Hamlin to keep that big crash behind him, and he grabs the victory.
So Joe Gibbs Racing, Toyota starts 2016 with a win the way they ended 2015. Now this year, a new qualifying format, Michael, 2 rounds. After 1 lap, the fastest 12 drivers advance. 2 open spots to be filled today. The rest of the field set after the Can-Am dual races Thursday on FS1.
It's all about grabbing the pole today for everybody in the field, but there's 4 guys that won't get to race this prestigious Daytona 500. They'll go home disappointed.
And the last time a pole sitter for the Daytona 500 actually won the race, 2000. That's when Dale Jarrett did it. The only driver with multiple Daytona 500 poles that you'll see today is Jimmy Johnson. They're about to crank the engines. Qualifying coming up. When our Fox crew checked out Daytona Rising, the new stadium, we were impressed. Took 2.5 years, $400 million to create NASCAR's first ever stadium. It's really more like a park, too. It works on so many levels with convenience, style, and flair, including a new broadcast booth and a new broadcaster joining Darrell Waltrip and Mike Joy, of course, Jeff Gordon. So, Jeff, welcome. And, Mike, good to see you guys.
Thanks, Chris. Jeff was the pole sitter for the Daytona 500 last year. Aside from having the front starting spot, what does winning the pole today mean for the entire week?
Yeah, it's extremely important. The most important front row and pole position of the entire season. It's the Daytona 500. So much history here and so many hours of hard work, months of hard work goes into building these cars to come down here and show all your competitors you got the fastest car in Daytona.
Now, this is a new format this year, just 1 lap of qualifying. So, Darrell, you put your right foot on the floor and you hold it wide open. What could be simpler?
Well, I always chuckle when the drivers, most of them, and Jeff will tell you, a driver really doesn't have that much to do with it. He has everything to do with it, and particularly with these engines the way they are and this format the way it is, you got to hit your shift points. You know right where they are. They're laid out by the engine guy. You got to run the right line. You got to hold a pretty wheel, and some guys have trouble doing that.
And, Chris, it all comes down to hundredths, no, thousandths of a second.
We'll be watching closely and fast, and you'll be heading out to get on the track yourself. Good luck qualifying for the pole in your in the Maxwell House car. Good to the last wreck.
Oh, man, it's Valentine's Day. Where's the love?
Well, I was just kidding because was it something I said? When we continue, we'll check in with Larry McReynolds. He takes us inside the inspection process of the famous 3-car. Glad you're watching live from Daytona. It's Fox NASCAR. Come on, Michael. Austin Dillon comes into 2016 searching for his first Cup win. A couple of years ago, he started on the pole for the Daytona 500 in that 3-car. Last year, he finished in the top 15. His 3-car synonymous with the late, great Dale Earnhardt, who, when he won his only Daytona 500, his crew chief was our own Larry McReynolds. Larry has always kept a close watch on the 3-car, including this morning. And Larry joins us now. Hey, Larry.
Hey, Chris, you know, after running the Sprint Unlimited last night, Austin Dillon's 3 team left the garage area at 12:15. But the garage area was open at 7 a.m. That's when Slugger Labby and that crew went in the garage area, uncovered the car, went through some setup, backed the car out, warmed up the engine, warmed up the running gear, and roughly about 8:15 they left to go through 6 different inspection stations, including restrictor plate, heights, and the laser platform. They only had one little issue. They were 2 pounds light on the right side. They easily corrected that, and Chris, at 10 a.m., 3 hours after going in the garage area, Austin Dillon's 3-car was on the line, ready for qualifying.
Larry, a lengthy process, and now the driver's turn to make it work. And there is Austin Dillon. 44 drivers, only 40 spots, but who's going to be on the front row for the Daytona 500? That's coming up right here on Fox. We're glad you're watching Fox NASCAR live from Daytona Beach, Florida. Look at that. Michael pointing to his brother Darrell back in the day. A good-looking look there. Settle in, warm up, and enjoy the afternoon with all of us. Let's head back upstairs to Darrell, Jeff, and Mike.
Thanks, Chris. I liked on that fire suit how your name was bigger than any of the sponsors.
That was important, baby.
Well, we didn't have live TV every week then like we do now. I know it's 15 below in Massachusetts. It's the same in Connecticut. We've gotten all your tweets. It's 64 degrees here. Sorry about that. The wind is still coming out of the northeast, as yesterday it's now only 8 miles per hour. First car on track in inverse order of practice speed, which means the slowest car in practice was Josh Wise, driving the Curtis Key Plumbing Chevrolet. From Riverside, California, the 33-year-old journeyman ran 24 races last year with 4 different teams. Now, he is one of the 8 open teams. NASCAR has a new charter system. There are 36 chartered teams, more on this later, but there are 8 open teams. There are 2 spots available in the Daytona 500 based on today's qualifying speeds for these 8 teams, and another 2 spots available on Thursday in the Can-Am dual races.
Yeah, one thing that you'll notice, or that we noticed, but I don't know if the fans will, because I don't know if they were watching or not, but you can come out of the pits right out in the racetrack, right out next to the wall. In practice, you had to stay down on the yellow line to get up to speed. That could that could help your speed a little bit, that ability to get up in that groove in the first and second turn and get the car really up to speed.
But Jeff, you no longer have a whole lap to ride up around the rim to build speed. The first lap, is the timed lap.
Yeah, I really like this new format. You know, last year we were here, we saw a huge crash because of the group qualifying. Now we've got, you leave pit road, it's crucial to get up through the gears, hit all of your marks as far as your shifting points, get up to speed, and then see how that car can run one lap. And I like it. It compresses everything. It also allows us to have 2 rounds of qualifying. We're going to narrow this down to the top 12 fastest cars, and then they're going to go run a second run out and go for their Daytona 500 pole and front row.
That's just a little quicker than his lap yesterday. Yesterday was a 48.26. Today he's at a 48.05, so a little quicker today than he was in practice. I think a lot of that could be attributed to the fact that you can get out on the track and get that
high line through 1 and 2, 3 and 4 coming to get to green.
Well, and even yesterday was a bit of a practice session or test session, I should say. These teams have not had any testing or practice on a super speedway all winter long. They come down here, it's all about getting their heights right, getting their temperatures right, doing all the little things. The tape on the grill is so crucial to the temperature of the water temp, the oil temp, as well as the aerodynamics of that car. So they were tweaking all those things. Today, it's about putting all those things together, and you're usually, like you said, DW, that extra bit of length around the track at 1 and 2, but also putting all those components together just gets a little bit more speed out of the car.
So this is Reed Sorensen, 30 years old from Peachtree City, Georgia, who started and finished 5th in the Daytona 500 in 2008. He ran 9 races in the series last year. He's in the CRC Brake Clean Chevrolet.
And I really think, I mean, the yellow line to me, even the yellow line's your best friend. It's almost like there's a wall there. It's like in a race.
Hitting the ground really hard. Something's real funky in the front end, too.
Didn't exactly hear what he was saying. There's something about
something
the front
in
end.
the front end, but I'm not sure what he was talking about.
Something real funky was what I heard.
Maybe they don't have power steering on the car and they didn't tell him.
Yeah, that could be. A lot of teams, they do things in qualifying that maybe they didn't do, or maybe they didn't get a chance to test, but they think, hey, we need a little bit more speed. Let's go ahead and put this in. It could be a tweak in the front geometry or maybe the power steering.
Whoa.
And it's just driving a little bit different than it did yesterday.
Oh, yeah, that's slower than he was yesterday. 48.12 yesterday.
49.679 for Reed Sorensen. Here's Vince Welch.
With Jamie McMurray, former Daytona 500 winner, scheduled to go out 19th. We were just talking about the conditions here. The sun playing a little peekaboo. We got a crosswind. How much do the conditions matter in your qualifying room?
Well, I don't think here that the sun makes as big of a difference as the wind. You know, what you hope is that you get the big tailwind down the back stretch, and then it stops blowing when you get to the front stretch, so you don't get the headwind. So I don't think the temperature is a big of a deal. Just the wind's a big factor.
Thanks, Jamie.
And Mike, Jeff, I think the wind direction has changed from practice yesterday. Yesterday, you were getting a tailwind down the front here and a little head down the back. Actually, I think it's almost like he said, a crosswind, where it really isn't going to affect the car very much at all with that wind blowing the way it is today.
Yeah, the wind is now out of the east. And coming to the line, Robert Richardson of McKinney, Texas, driving for BK Racing in the Stalkit Toyota.
Familiar with that car.
Yeah, there's a really great logo on the side of that car to represent that brand.
I know, I noticed that yesterday.
They make snowboards and other recreational equipment. Richardson has 2 Daytona 500 starts. He finished 31st in 2010.
Well, you talk about the wind, DW, and it does look like it's just shifted a little bit. It looks like it's not as heavy as it was yesterday also. But what everybody wants is just consistent conditions. And one of the things that is going to be interesting about these teams as they go later in this qualifying session is we've seen a lot of times when you're this close to the ocean, that wind will start to pick up in the afternoon and could change direction as well.
Robert Richardson, 47.245. Here is David Gilliland. Gilliland is driving in a Front Row Motorsports Ford. He was the pole winner when driving for Robert Yates here in 2007, and he finished 3rd driving for this team in 2011. Now, if you turn your attention up here to our qualifying pylon, you'll notice drivers' names with an asterisk. Those are the 8 drivers driving for open teams, teams that do not have a charter that lock them into the Daytona 500 and every other Sprint Cup race this season.
So much pride to be in the Daytona 500. As a race car driver, your dream is to one day compete at Daytona International Speedway and to be in the Daytona 500. Of course, you want to win it. So there's a lot of emotion that goes into this qualifying session to put yourself into position, whether you're a team, whether you're a driver, you want to be in the Daytona 500, and this is how you do it.
Gilliland's second fastest, 47.53. Here is David Reagan in the Dr. Pepper Toyota. Reagan finished 5th in the 500 in 2007, 6th in 2009, driving now for BK Racing.
Pretty good restrictor plate racer David Reagan is. And by the way, that lap that Richardson Jr. put up, that 47.24, that's a pretty nice lap. That's a lot faster than what he practiced.
And as we go through the order, through all 44 cars. They are lined up in the inverse of their practice speed, so the fastest cars in the 4 hours of practice yesterday will be starting at the end of the session.
Yeah, so typically you would think as we go, cars are going to continue to get faster, but there's always some surprises in there. And we saw a big surprise yesterday in practice where the Penske cars went out and worked together to actually draft to get their cars at the back of this list that's going to go out today.
David Reagan, third fastest, 47.602. Coming up, Cole Witt, Bobby Labonte, Landon Castle, and Clint Boyer. Cole Witt of Alpine, California, driving for Mike Hillman and Premium Motorsports. Lays down a lap of 47.275. That's third quickest. And right now, the fastest driver is Bobby Labonte, the 2000 Series champion who won the pole and finished second in the race in 1998. His C&J Energy Services Ford is in first place. Here's the Florida Lottery Ford. Landon Castle out of Fairfax, Iowa, and he is second quickest with a 47.07.
Landon had some great runs on the restrictor plate tracks last year, so you know, I look to see him really take this as an opportunity to showcase that sponsor, that team, and what his capabilities are.
Now this is Clint Boyer in the 5-Hour Energy Now Chevrolet. Michael Waltrip Racing, for whom he drove last year, shut down at the end of 2015, so he moves over to Harry Scott's now 2-car team for 1 season, after which he'll replace Tony Stewart in the number 14 at Stewart Haas Racing. So Boyer, the 5-Hour Energy Chevy. Steve Addington is the crew chief.
Saw a little sparking, Jeff, down there in the middle of turns 1 and 2, those bumps we saw yesterday, just a little spark out of the car. Clinton has not been very happy with this car. Hadn't had any speed in it. Really has struggled to get it up to speed. Maybe a little bit better today, but not sure a whole lot.
Yeah, I think he's going to be disappointed with this, but he's a great race car driver, great restrictor plate driver, and I think he'll have a great opportunity to drive up through the field.
Boyer has 2 fourth-place finishes in the 500, and he is second at a 47.05. Here's Jamie Little.
And Chase Elliott just getting ready to qualify the 24 car. What is this moment like for you, Chase? Your first time about to qualify for the Daytona 500 in the 24 car.
Yeah, it's very surreal. I think it's I think a lot of the talk over the past few months especially is a lot of it's kind of setting in, I think, at this point, and I think a lot of it will more come next week and come Thursday, I think, for the duels. But this is a special day. Just a lot of trips down here watching my dad qualify, and it's very cool to be down here and be a part of this Napa 24 team, and we're excited to be a part of it. And hopefully we can have a good qualifying effort. I know Alan and everybody are really happy with this race car and the speed they've got in it. So I have confidence in them, and hopefully I can hit my marks for them.
All right, Mike, a lot of people seem to think this guy has a good shot at pole.
He'll be one of the top rookie contenders this year, along with Brian Blaney and this driver, Chris Buescher, out of Prosper, Texas, driving for Front Row Motorsports in the Love's Travel Stops Ford. 35th fastest overall in practice. And Buescher is fastest, 46.78. That's a 1/10 and a half quicker than Bobby Labonte.
Bob Osborne, the crew chief over there with Chris. Bob's a great, he's with Carl a long time. That's a good lap for those guys.
And that was one of the first cars that I noticed. We're going to talk about this a lot this year, skew. And it's what the teams can do with the rear end housings to get the back of the car either shifted to the left or shifted to the right. The downforce tracks, you want it shifted to the right to get more downforce, more air to the spoiler. Here at Daytona, you wanted to do the exact opposite and move it to the left. And the last car out there with Buescher, I noticed that car was shifted to the left. Now I see A.J. Allmendinger. It looks like they've got a slight shift to the left in the back, and you'll probably see more of that as we get through the running.
Yeah, you want to maximize that as much as you can. But remember, Bob Osborne was with Carl, and the first time I saw a car go around the racetrack with it back end hanging out was at Texas. And Bob was the crew chief then, and I didn't realize. I didn't know what they were doing. I knew it was weird.
Allmendinger driving for Tad Geschecter in the Kroger Scott Products Chevrolet. This will be his 7th Daytona 500. He finished 3rd in his first one. He is 3rd quickest at 46.97. He's the fastest Chevrolet so far. Coming up, Michael McDowell, Michael Annette, and Michael Waltrip as Carl Edwards checks his texts. Michael McDowell of Glendale, Arizona, the Thrivent Financial, now Chevrolet, this team now aligned with Richard Childress Racing. He is one of the 8 open cars that have to time or race their way into the 500, and he is fastest. Michael Annett is guaranteed a spot in the race. The Iowan just completes his lap, and he is 5th quickest. Annett 5th in the Flying J Pilot Chevrolet. Here's Michael Waltrip in the Maxwell House Toyota.
I think this is going to be, I think this is better than he was anticipating.
We've got a little in-car commentating happening for this run. I love it.
But that is
46.78.
That's a great lap. I mean, those guys struggled yesterday. The best he ran yesterday was, I don't know, right around 47 flat, I think. So that's a nice pickup.
Now, Michael's team shut down at the end of the season. They sold some cars, made an engine deal with this team in order to compete here at Daytona in the 83 that will run the whole season with Matt DiBenedetto behind the wheel. So for Daytona, DiBenedetto is in an open car and must time or race in. He's in the dustless blasting Toyota.
And you know who Michael's crew chief is? A former championship winning crew chief from 1980, Doug Richard.
How about that?
That's Michael's crew chief.
What I like about this run, you know, this really is an important run, because if you look at the open cars, he's pretty much up against Michael McDowell, that final speed, because we're pretty sure that Ryan Blaney is going to get his way in by time. So this is very important and a great lap.
Top of the chart for DiBenedetto, 46.70 for the 24-year-old from Grass Valley, California. And that means with only one other open competitor to go, Ryan Blaney, means that DiBenedetto will be in the Daytona 500.
Exactly.
Let's check with Matt Yoakum.
And Denny Hamlin, a winner last night in the Sprint Unlimited. Always known more for your race package than maybe qualifying here at Daytona. What's going to be even more crucial with this one lap effort we've got today?
Well, it's just, you know, it was a cold night, so all the oils and everything in the car is going to be a little bit thicker than what it was when we were doing our practice run. So it's just a matter of seeing, you know, how much could you gain in your adjustments, and how much really just going out there and doing it one lap cold, how much time loss will be from that alone.
Regan Smith on track, driving for Tommy Baldwin in the Nico RC Golden Corral Chevrolet. A couple of New York Staters, owner and driver. Smith was an 11th hour replacement for Alex Bowman, who drove this car last year, and Bowman learned on Twitter that he had been replaced less than a month ago.
Had a pretty good lap going until off turn 4. Looked like he lost a little speed there, but still he's third, not too bad.
46.74.
Hey, I'd like to go to Larry McReynolds. I thought that was pretty interesting, talking to Denny Hamlin about, you know, it was very cold last night. It takes a lot for these teams to get heat in the oils. What do you think the process was there, Larry, from this morning?
Well, I've watched everything go on in the garage area this morning with Austin Dillon's car. That's the first thing they did when they uncovered that car, is they plug heaters into the oil tank, to the rear end differential, into the transmission. Then they spend as much time as possible warming all that running gear up, and then the minute they got through inspection, Jeff, and got on pit road, you always see these big boxes by the cars on pit road. They are generators, and they are plugging that oil, plugging that rear end, plugging that transmission in, and leaving it until NASCAR makes them unplug it before qualifying.
Those heaters have thermostats on them, and there is an absolute spot in there you want to hit. Like if the oil's 280 or whatever, you want to hit that number.
Eric Almirola takes the checkered flag, driving a car number that's won the 500 7 times for its owner, Richard Petty. Almirola from Tampa, Florida, 46.45. That's the fastest speed of the day.
That's a good lap. That's a very, very good lap.
lap.
That's really setting the mark. We saw some times in practice where people were making qualifying runs in that range and maybe a little bit faster. That is, you know, really going to be something for somebody to go after.
That's a 46.81 yesterday, so nice pickup by that team.
We're definitely seeing 2-3 tenths from
about 3 tenths.
Everybody.
Yeah, it looks like about 3.
Now remember, qualifying this year under a new format, no more group qualifying and no more fastest of 2 laps. You leave pit road, when you come around you get the green and you have 1 lap to get the job done. The fastest 12 cars in this round will transfer to round 2 and run for the Daytona 500 front row. Here's Kyle Larson from Elk Grove, California, driving the Target Chevrolet. He'll start his 3rd Daytona 500 next Sunday.
Mike, it takes so much science, so much work by the engineers to get a car to go around all the way around this bank racetrack sitting flat. That nose, the car, the nose, and the splitter never changes. It stays the same off the racetrack all the way around.
46.64 is second fastest. That's about 2/10 behind the speed of Eric Almirola's Ford. Let's go trackside.
Martin Truex Jr. on pole for the Daytona 500 back in 2009. But what do you focus on most, Martin, with this unique qualifying format here at Daytona?
Yeah, really, it's just about not making mistakes, you know, hitting your shift points right and all that, just to get up to speed because you only have one lap. So we got a few practice runs on it yesterday, and you know, hopefully we'll be able to back all that up.
Thank you, Matt. Jamie McMurray, the Daytona 500 winner in 2010. He's in the McDonald's Cessna Chevrolet for Chip Ganassi Racing.
And now as we start to get more and more cars making lap times, you'll see a yellow line there on your screen, and that's what these guys are all trying to accomplish. How do we get in the top 12 to have a second shot at that second running and get out there and have a shot at the pole for the Daytona 500?
Because for round 2, all of these round 1 times are thrown out. You can't carry your first round time over to round 2. You've got to go and run again. Good run for McMurray, 46.53. He pretty much splits the difference between Almirola and Larson on the lap time chart.
Again, that's about 3/10 over his lap yesterday, 46.85 yesterday. So nice pickup, like what we've been seeing.
Danica Patrick back at Daytona with the same team, same number, and a new sponsor, Nature's Bakery, on her Chevrolet for Stewart Haas Racing.
Yep, won the pole down here, what, a couple of years ago in her car, and was running really well in practice. Had some good average lap speeds.
And one of the things you'll see during qualifying, a little bit different line that the drivers run versus in a race when they're drafting. And basically, these cars get up to speed fairly quickly. They're probably up to speed by the time they come off of turn 4 before they take the green or right about the start-finish line. And they just basically want to run the shortest line they can possibly run around this racetrack, right next to that yellow line, all the way around.
Yeah, I mean, you always want to turn the wheel as little as possible. The more you have to crank on that wheel, the more you're binding the car up, the more it's slowing down. So almost like for the car to go through the corner without having to turn the wheel very much at all.
So here's Patrick, the 20th driver to qualify. 46.80 is 9th fastest. Chris Neville.
Eric Almirola is 25th in practice yesterday. And Eric, you told me you were looking for a little bit more speed in your car. You obviously found some. Did you find enough?
I don't think that's nearly enough, but it's still a good run for us. Trent Owens and the guys must have had some sort of tricks up their sleeves or something. It was about a half a second faster than we were yesterday. And like I said yesterday, I didn't really understand where we stacked up, because so many people were running 2 and 3 and 4 laps, and I could not understand why, because all we get to do today is run 1 lap, and that's really what we focused on yesterday. So proud of everybody on this Smithfield Ford Fusion team. Regardless of where we end up, we'll go race Thursday and get ready for the Great American Race.
Thanks, Eric.
On track, Denny Hamlin in the FedEx Express Toyota, winner of last night's Demolition Derby, the Sprint Unlimited here on the Speedway, in which 25 cars started and only 2 finished the race without damage. Hamlin not being one of those, but he went to victory lane.
No, he's delivering the goods right now, buddy. He's coming to the line looking good.
Fastest is Denny Hamlin, and he is 2/10 faster than Almirola, 46.26. Coming up, Paul Menard, Brian Vickers, Ty Dillon, and Trevor Bayne. Paul Menard in the Peak Antifreeze Menard Chevrolet will be starting his 9th Daytona 500. He is currently 2nd fastest at 46.40. And Brian Vickers substituting for Tony Stewart in the Bass Pro Shops Mobile One Chevrolet, because Stewart was injured in an off-road accident in the off-season, driving a sand rail out in the desert. Vickers is the replacement for Stewart for Speed Weeks, 46.46. Now this is Ty Dillon. He is in the number 95 because Circle Sport and Levine Family Racing merged at the end of last season and formed an alliance with Richard Childress Racing. Dillon is Childress's grandson, and he's behind the wheel here with Todd Parrott as crew chief. Ty Dillon second now at 46.40. Jamie.
And Kyle Larson 7th right now. And looking at times from yesterday in practice compared to qualifying, how'd you feel about it?
I think we ran about the same lap time, so I I don't know if that's disappointing or not. You always would like to go faster, I think, in qualifying than you did in practice, but I'm not worried about it. Qualifying, if you're not going to be in the top 2, doesn't mean anything for the 500 because we get to race for kind of a spot through the duels. So yeah, excited for next Thursday. I thought last night was a good little test for our team, for myself and Chad to work together a little bit, kind of learn how he talks on the radio, and he probably get to see that I don't talk much on the radio. But yeah, it's gonna be a good season. I hope for some good things, and just ready to get going.
Working with that brand new crew chief, Chad Johnston, who was with Tony Stewart last year.
Trevor Bayne in the Advocare Ford for Roush Fenway Racing, youngest winner ever of the 500 in 2011. But he's well down the speed chart in 16th at a 47.01.
If you missed those final laps of the race last night, that Sprint Unlimited, you missed one heck of a save by Kyle Larson, and it will be one of many this year. He was completely sideways right when that caution came out last night, but he still finished with top 3.
Jeff, we've been seeing about a 3/10 pickup over what these guys ran yesterday on a one-lap run. I think most of that comes from the ability to leave pit road and drive right up into the racetrack, right out next to the wall, going down the short chute into 1, and then being able to run high all the way around 1 and 2. I think you're getting a little bit more momentum up that way, and that's where those extra 3/10 are coming from in most cases.
Yeah, it definitely makes a big difference.
Brian Scott from Boise, Idaho moves up from the Xfinity Series. He'll also be a contender for Sunoco Rookie of the Year. He is wheeling the Albertsons Shore Lodge Ford, and the number 44 is one of those historical numbers used by Petty Enterprises from 40 to 45 back in the day. Scott is 7th fastest. Chris Neville.
Well, Paul Menard currently 3rd on the board. And Paul, how important is it to start up front in the duels?
If you're not in the front row, it really doesn't matter, honestly. So we put a lot of effort into our peak antifreeze Chevrolet for this week, and we had a really good pickup today versus what we ran yesterday. So really proud of my guys. It's a whole another animal on Thursday, though. So as long as we can see the leader, I know our car's going to draft really well. Our car last night didn't have very much speed by itself, but it drafted good, and I think this one will too.
Ryan Newman on track. He gave Roger Penske a Daytona 500 victory in 2008, driving one of Penske's Dodges. Now he's in the Cat Chevrolet with crew chief Luke Lambert for Richard Childress Racing.
Anytime you hear Richard Childress Racing, you think of Daytona and you think of the dominance that they've had here in the past. I know they'd like to get back to those winning ways here again.
We just talked to Paul Menard. I think Paul's an underrated driver. I think he does a heck of a job everywhere we go.
I love his personality. He's calm, he's cool, but boy, you put him into that moment, he's ready to get after
He
it.
is. Can be aggressive. He was last night.
46.36 for Ryan Newman. He is now 2nd fastest and the fastest Chevrolet.
Well, they're nipping at our fastest car here right now, but that was getting closer every time somebody is.
Yeah, we've almost reached 195 for the average speed, and I think we're definitely going to get over that by the time this thing is over. So those are some fast speed single cars, 1 lap qualifying here at Daytona.
Now the 78 is scheduled out. They are moving the number 3 of Austin Dillon into position to leave pit road.
They certainly don't seem like they're in a panic.
No, Larry.
Yeah, I talked about going through the 6 inspection stations this morning with the 3 car, and the very first station is where NASCAR issues the restrictor plate that goes onto the throttle body. They basically check the throttle body, but this is how they select which restrictor plate the team gets. They draw a number out of a bingo bucket that corresponds with the number in that box, and the teams never touch the restrictor plate. NASCAR places it on there and then places a throttle body. And guys, I bet this is something you don't know. Whatever restrictor plate sits on a pole or wins a race here, it's never to be used again. And if I did the math right, between the races that you 2 guys won and sat on the pole and the races I won and sat on the pole as a crew chief, we destroyed about 20 restrictor plates.
I would like to know the vault that NASCAR keeps those restrictor plates in. It must be a thick one.
I know a guy.
A combination or 2.
Austin Dillon won the pole for the 500 in 2014 when the storied number 3 that had been used with such great success in all those championships, and the '98 win for Dale Earnhardt Sr. after a 10 or so year hiatus returned to the racetrack. Richard Childress had said he'd only bring the 3 back for a family member, and Austin Dillon is Childress's grandson. That was the decision made, and now he proudly carries that number on his Dow Chevrolet.
You know, we had a rookie, Danica Patrick, win the pole here about 3 years ago. Then Austin won the pole here last year. And you think about the way Chase Elliott is running, how good a chance he got. We could have a rookie on the pole again today.
Now, checking on the Martin Truex car, they were not held at that position by NASCAR. The team has an issue, so they've gone on NASCAR's 5-minute clock. They must present that car to qualify within 5 minutes of the start of the clock, or they lose their spot.
Yeah, we're going to talk a lot about hundredths and thousandths of a second. Right now, you see Austin Dillon come to the line, 0.08 of a second up.
Looking good
on Hamlin so far. That's looking really good.
Yep, he's holding that.
Fastest at a 46.201. The difference between he and Hamlin is 65 thousandths of a second. Let's find out what's going on with Martin Truex's car. Matt?
Mike, discussions are taking place with NASCAR officials. At this juncture, they believe the right side roof flap is up too much. Cole Pearn waiting to hear what the outcome will be if they can just manually push that down. They are on the 5-minute clock. Officials are telling them now that they're going to have to take the car back.
Oh, that's big.
You know, one thing you can't do, tape it.
The reason you would have that roof flap up just a little bit, it actually takes air off the rear spoiler. And I'm not talking a lot, I'm talking about just a little bit.
Well, that's what you're looking at right there, just a little bit. And we had one like that one time, and we said, well, just tape it, put a piece of tape on it.
Now,
that's a no-no.
I can tell you, this is a big no-no. If NASCAR can prove that they're doing this purposefully, that could be a big penalty. We've definitely, I've seen some pictures of some cars over the years where under green, they've been able to get them to sort of hike up a little bit. And sometimes in the draft, the turbulent air will suck them up. But if you have one sitting on pit road with that space, that could be big.
Yeah. Ricky Stenhouse is on track in the Fastenal Ford for Roush Fenway Racing, finished 7th in the 500 2 years ago. Nick Sandler is his crew chief. He's had 4 Daytona 500 starts.
You know, we're not just talking about teams here when we talk about Daytona 500 and being able to have a lot of pride on the line for the speed that you put up, being on the pole. There's Ford versus Chevy versus Toyota, and the battle is on.
Exactly.
Stenhouse comes to the line. 46.19 by a hundredth of a second.
All right, that's P1 right now, 46.19. Get it slowed down. We'll meet you down there.
Really nice. That is impressive.
Great boost for Roush Fenway Racing.
Yes, but for Martin Truex and his one-car team out of Denver, Colorado, they will not post a Daytona 500 qualifying time. They have pushed that car back.
Wow.
Behind the wall, the 5-minute clock will expire, and they'll have to start the Can-Am duel from the back. Jimmy Johnson, 10th in points last year, 2 Daytona 500 victories and 2 poles in the 500 for Jimmy Johnson, crew chief Chad Knaus, and their Lowe's Chevrolet.
I think you two were on the front row last year, right? You in the 48?
I believe it was. I think that's Jimmy on the front row last year. Yes.
So they've
and I've been guessing all weekend that a Hendrick duo is going to be on the front row. So I'm curious to see what kind of lap that he can put up here to see if it's going to be this 48 car on the front row.
Well, if he picks up 3/10 like other drivers have from yesterday, he'll be right on Stenhouse, and he is 3rd. 46.21. Just a quarter of a second back of Ricky Stenhouse. Coming up, Casey Kane, Casey Mears, and Greg Biffle. Casey Kane coasting in on the Farmers Insurance Chevrolet after putting up a run that is 6th fastest now, 46.36 for Kane. Casey Mears driving the Geico Chevrolet is the 33rd driver to qualify, 500 runner-up in 06. And Mears right now 5th quickest with a 46.33 as we ride with Greg Biffle in the KFC Ford.
Now, I don't know if that tracker was right, but this was the Ford we were picking yesterday to possibly sit on the pole. That right now looking at a 12th place position here. That's going to be very disappointing for Roush Fenway Racing with this Ford.
And that's where he lands. 46-47 for Biffle, who was the 500 pole sitter in 2004.
Now that could be just as simple as they missed the tape, missed the temps, maybe they missed the heights a little bit, but definitely something didn't go the way they wanted it to.
The 5-minute clock has expired on Martin Truex, and his opportunity to qualify, he'll be listed as a DNS in the qualifying order and start at the back of the Can-Am duel as Carl Edwards in the Eris Toyota for Joe Gibbs Racing. When he was in a Ford, he started on pole for the 500 in 2012. Last year qualified 6th.
Toyota wins their first championship in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series last year. They're looking for their first Daytona 500 pole and first win in the Daytona 500. And certainly those Joe Gibbs Toyotas have been showing a lot of strength down here already.
Yeah, I think these the Gibbs cars particularly are the Gibbs and the Penske cars seems to be the cars to beat already. I mean, based on what we saw in practice, what we saw last night,
well, we'll
what
see
we saw
when
at the
that
end of last
24
year.
and 88 go out. I don't know. I still believe it's going to be a Hendrick front row, but I think these Toyotas are certainly showing a lot of strength, especially the 20 of Matt Kenseth, and Kyle Busch.
Now Edwards is 5th. He's just 3/1000ths of a second behind his teammate Denny Hamlin.
All right, let's critique this lap, okay? Here comes your man, or here comes the cool kid, I should say.
This kid is pretty cool. I couldn't imagine being in the position he's in, coming in with so much attention on him, being in that 24 car. But if anybody can handle it, it's Chase Elliott, and I'm excited for him, that team. And look at that lap. You see that, DW?
I'm watching, brother. I'm watching.
Chase Elliott's dad ran the fastest qualifying lap ever. One of 4 poles that Bill Elliott won here, tied for the most as the 20-year-old from Dawsonville, Georgia, takes over the keys to the storied Jeff Gordon.
See, I can tell you talked to him.
I can
tell you talked to him.
He's running that lower
look
line.
where he is. He's right on that yellow line. And yesterday he was up a little bit.
He's a student. He listens. He pays attention. That's awesome. I love it.
Maybe you're a good coach.
Oh, this is looking really, really good here. This is going to be a heck of a lap. Looking at 1400 faster.
Yeah, it might be in the 45.
46.03.
Good job, bud. Remember your brakes. Remember your brakes.
And that is fastest by 1/10.5 as Elliott will make his Daytona Sprint Cup debut next Sunday. Jamie?
Ricky Stenhouse Jr. just knocked off the top spot, second right now. You told me your Roush Fenway machine had some more speed in it. Did that run exceed or meet your expectations?
I think it's kind of what my Fastenal guys had in mind anyway. They worked really hard this offseason. Doug Yates on the engine shop, everybody at Roush Fenway in the body department, chassis department, everybody's put a lot of work into our cars down here. So it was really good to see that time go up there, and I knew the 24 was going to be fast there, but definitely proud of all the work that the guys put in. We'll see what happens in the next round, but so far so good for us. This is the way we want to start the year off with a fast race car.
Thanks, Ricky. Mike?
This is Kevin Harvick, the 2014 champion in the Jimmy John Chevrolet from Stuart Haas Racing. Outside pole sitter here in 2002. 500 winner in 07.
Got to get the whip out, or should have gotten the whip out. Hey, he jumped there right at the line. He jumped up.
46.40.
Not exactly sure if that's going to make it into the top 12. I really saw this as a potential front row contender, but now here comes Dale Earnhardt Jr. I really think the 24 and the 88 are the teams to beat in these Hendrick Chevrolets for the pole down here. And this guy, I believe, is the guy to beat for the Daytona 500. He is so good on these restrictor plate tracks, especially with a Hendrick race car underneath him.
7th fastest in practice. Dale Earnhardt Jr. was the pole sitter here in 2011. He's a 2-time winner of the 500 and certainly ranks as one of the favorites.
See, we have inside information over here. See, this guy over here. I mean, he's picking the front row and then picks the 2 Hendrick cars, and that's a pretty good pick.
Right now, Dale Jr. saying we're getting after it because you can hear the skirts and the things dragging underneath the car. They're picking up a lot of speed from yesterday.
All right, 6 cars left to go. He's got to be in the top half dozen to be assured of making.
There you go. 45,
transfer,
96.
And he does. He'll make it to round 2.
That's about 196 mile an hour, right at it.
195.7.
That's a steamy little lap.
Well, as we go through the order, we get to faster and faster cars from practice. So the speeds should keep going up all the way to the end of the session. 12 drivers will transfer to round 2. There are 6 left to go, including Matt Kenseth in the Dollar General Toyota from Joe Gibbs Racing. Started 3rd here 2 years ago. He's a 2-time 500 winner.
Boy, look how tight this is.
But he was so good until he turned off the corner over there off turn 2. Looked like he lost a little bit of speed off of turn 2. Like the car might have been just a skosh tight as he exited that corner.
But this is what I was talking about. When we start getting down to these final qualifiers, you're talking about hundreds and thousands of a second. But this is looking good to knock those Hendrick Chevys from that top spot. I know we have one more round to go.
Close.
You can see they got the temps just right, just a little bit of steam. Oh
no! He did. He knocked the case off the front row.
2 right now.
He is P2, 2.5 hundredths off of Dale Earnhardt Jr. But Matt Kenseth will transfer to round 2.
Yeah,
that's when the poll will be
ain't over
decided.
yet. We're just looking to transfer into the next round.
Yeah, we're getting all excited.
Let's not get excited.
We're just going to move on.
Now, I would be interested to see what they do with that 20 car. You saw a little bit of steam coming out. Maybe they got a little bit hot, and that's why it lost a little bit of speed coming to the line. They might be able to adjust that for that second run.
Next up are the Busch brothers.
Cooler down, should be all right.
Kyle is the younger. He is also the defending champion of NASCAR's Sprint Cup Series. 5th fastest in practice. He has started 4th in the 500 3 times and has won 4th place finish. Adam Stevens, crew chief on the M&M's Toyota for Joe Gibbs Racing.
Has to be a lot of emotion for Kyle Busch coming back here to Daytona. He wasn't in this race last year because of his accident and the injury, but he's now a champion, and he's got to be excited about his opportunity this weekend.
I mean, you couldn't write a better script. You couldn't, a storybook ending to his horrific start last year and end up champion. That's just unbelievable.
Incredible.
What a comeback.
46.127, 4th fastest. He will transfer to the final round. Ryan Newman goes to the bubble. Harvick is out as far as those who will transfer. So here's older brother Kurt Busch, who is also a champion of this series. He's driving the Haas Automation Monster Energy Chevrolet. Has a 3rd place start and 3 runner-up finishes.
Yeah, neither Kyle or Kurt were in the Daytona 500 last year, so they missed a year.
And you know, after seeing Kevin Harvick go earlier and not running some of the speeds we were anticipating the Stewart-Haas teams, especially the 41 and the 4 running based on what we saw yesterday, this is sort of the same picture that we're seeing here. Yeah. Not quite as fast as we anticipated, probably not going to make it into the top 12 for that second round.
He's flirting with it. He's on the edge.
He's on the edge, but we also have some
well, we got the 2 Penske cars to go yet, and they're both fast.
He has to be 10th or better to make the final round.
Well,
and he bumps Ryan Newman. He is 10th fastest. And that will move Casey Kane onto the hot seat with 3 drivers to go. Ryan Blaney, 3rd generation racer. Now living in High Point, North Carolina, the racing family, Lou, Dave, and now Ryan out of Ohio. 22 years old, the Motorcraft, Quick Lane Tire, and Auto Center Ford of the storied Wood brothers, who've won the 500 5 times. Now, because they were not a full-time competitor in the Sprint Cup Series from 2013 through 2015, they did not receive one of the 36 charters. So they are an open car. There'll be an asterisk next to Blaney's name. He has to time in today or race in on Thursday to make the 500.
Well, that tracker's right on that. It's coming and going. He was really picking up a lot of speed, and now he's kind of leveled off right here at 9th place, looks like. Still going to be a nice race. Jumps up to 8th a little bit. So a nice run for this team. Moves to the next round.
And that bumps Casey Kane. Ryan Blaney goes to round 2, and he's in the 500 based on that lap. Casey Mears goes to the hot seat. Jamie?
Chase Elliott, the rookie, 3rd on the board right now. Anything you could do better or differently for the next round?
Yeah, just get off pit road better. I struggled there to get off pit road, and had that problem yesterday. Just something I need to get used to and do a little better job. I think I lost a little bit of speed there, but really proud of the effort so far. I think you know, the guys did a really good job. I think overnight, kind of getting some extra speed out of the car, and hopefully we can try to have a good second round here.
And they can make some minor changes to the car before the next round, Mike.
Brad Keselowski is on track in the Miller Lite Ford for Roger Penske. The 3 Penske Fords were the 3 fastest in the combined practice sessions. That's why they're going at the end of this session. How'd they do it?
They gave us a lot of excitement, that's for sure, but they were drafting. They wanted to make sure that they helped out their teammate Ryan Blaney, who doesn't have the charter system to go off of to make it in this race. And so they wanted to make sure they gave him a really good time in case it went back on practice speeds. And so that really skewed what kind of speeds we saw out of these Penske Fords. And now we're seeing the real speed that they have, and 18th. I'm sure they're pretty disappointed.
Yeah, 18th quick, Jeff. That was
46-42. Keselowski will not transfer to round 2. And the nervous man in the bottom right of the screen was Casey Mears, because now he has to see if he can hold on while Joey Logano, the defending Daytona 500 champion, makes his run. The 25-year-old from Middletown, Connecticut, started 5th and won last year's Daytona 500. He was in that 3-car draft and was the quickest of the 3 in the closing moments of yesterday's practice. So he has the honor of being the last car to qualify, but will he break into the top dozen?
What I like about this kind of qualifying, Mike, is, and Jeff, is you get a second chance. You heard Chase Elliott say, I might have made a mistake, or you got a chance to correct it. Anybody that's in the top 12, we got a second chance.
Well, we certainly know he's got the back of the car down really well. You can hear it scraping and dragging as he goes through the bumps and through the corners. So the team's doing everything they can. Now it's just up to the clock.
Pretty smooth.
And we've got to wait on the watch.
He did it.
12 for Logano. Oh, no.
A 31 to a 32.
He bumps Casey Mears by 1/1000th of a second, the absolute narrowest of margins.
Incredible.
How about that?
And that was just round 1.
That's right. Now 12 drivers led by Dale Earnhardt Jr. get to run for the Daytona 500 front row.
After round 1, 12 advancing to see who's on the front row for next Sunday's Daytona 500. Dale Earnhardt Jr., 2-time Daytona 500 champion, just under 196 miles per hour. Joey Logano just getting in, as you saw, bumping Casey Mears.
And Ryan Blaney, he locks into the Daytona 500 along with Matt DiBenedetto. That's a big deal for that DiBenedetto team, an independent group that has raced their way into the Daytona 500.
Michael Waltrip, Chris Myers, he was in the 83 car, the Maxwell House Toyota. And how was it out there?
It was great. Our car drove good. The team did a great job of setting that splitter. That's what it's all about in qualifying. You don't want to skim along the track. That takes speed away. Felt nothing in the front end. The car drove well. I was really happy. What I love, Chris, they send you out on the racetrack to go 200 miles an hour, say, oh, by the way, you don't have any power steering or brakes, so kind of be careful, but go really fast.
And then come back and be a broadcaster. DiBenedetto made it by 200ths of a second just to get in.
Yeah, support from Toyota Racing helped them get over the bubble, and they're in the Daytona 500.
So the edge in his favor went the other way for another driver. Matt Yoakum is standing by.
Casey Mears 1/1000th of a second.
Yeah, that was close, but I guess we're going to be anything. 13's not a bad number for us. It's been good for us, so we'll take that. I'm real proud of the guys. Obviously everybody here and the whole NASCAR group puts a lot of work into this, coming to this race and showing speed. It's a great opportunity to show what the team's made out of, and I think our guys, paid a lot of attention to detail, and just proud of the work that the Geico guys did. It was, to be in contention here and to be running in the groups that we're running with, the guys are doing a really good job back at the shop. I mean, we built our own body in-house at Germain Racing, with a lot of information from RCR, but the fact that we're able to repeat that and get that close is a testament to how hard those guys work, and I just appreciate everything they do, and it was a lot of fun. So last night was a great time, and obviously we got some pretty good speed, so I'm looking forward to the 500.
Thank you, Casey.
Thank you, Casey. Dale Earnhardt Jr. helping out with a chance to be on the pole, one of 12 drivers advancing to round 2, the new format. There's the disappointment as Casey Mears could only watch as Logano squeezed into that 12th spot. We'll continue in a moment. Live here at Daytona Beach, Florida. Aerial coverage provided by Goodyear. Everything they learned making tires for the grueling demands of NASCAR inspires what rolls into yours. Goodyear, the official tire of NASCAR. Two of the guys that are moving on, that's the guy on the 24, Chase Elliott, the 20-year-old, put up a blazing speed of 3rd on the chart. And Michael Waltrip, the remainder here that we're seeing, you see Kevin Harvick at 16. So they're in the Daytona 500, but the starting order, this is not exactly how it's going to unfold. We'll decide the rest of that other than the front row Thursday in the Can-Am duels. So you'll see those on FS1.
The Can-Am duels are so much fun. These guys will all be jockeying and racing, trying to get the best spot in the Daytona 500 they can possibly get. If I'm Greg Biffle and Trevor Bayne, they're part of that Roush Fenway crowd. How did Ricky Stenhouse go so fast? Why is he up front and why are we in the back? A lot of questions to be asked and answered over the next few days.
11 Daytona 500s for Martin Truex Jr. Notice the DNS did not get out for this qualifying run. Let's get the word on that. Chris Neville is standing by with the crew chief for Martin Truex Jr.
Yeah, Chris, I'm not in the NASCAR inspection area with crew chief Cole Pearn. And Cole, we can see Martin's car behind us here. The NASCAR officials have been looking at the right side roof flaps on the car. What's the problem?
I didn't like the way it was landing when it dropped back down. So, you know, I don't know. It was that way the whole way down pit road. I'm not sure what the problem was. It could have been easily fixed. But either way, they decided to put it on the 5-minute clock when we were down there at the end. And I don't know why we had to run back here because there's no way we were going to, you know, get back here and get back out in time. But whatever. We'll roll on and see what they decide to do. And it was too bad. I thought we had you know, a really good car and good speed in it. So it would have been nice to, you know, seen what we could have run at least. But either way, we'll move on and hopefully have a good rest of speed weeks.
Thanks, Cole.
2009 pole sitter Martin Truex Jr. in this Daytona 500. Interesting there.
Yeah, anytime they pull you aside and sort of put you in sequester there and take that car from you and you can't get your hands on it, you're concerned. We could hear the concern in Cole Pearn's voice, what NASCAR will decide to do with the way that roof flap was landing, as he called it.
We'll continue live from Daytona and qualifying for the front row. 12 advancing. Chase Elliott's car, the old Jeff Gordon wheels. Matt Kenseth as well. And there is your leader at the moment at the top spot, Dale Earnhardt Jr. Fox Sports is giving fans the chance to win the same prize as the driver who wins the 2016 Daytona 500, $1.5 million. All you have to do is pick the top 10 finishers of the race in order. Go to foxsports.com/Daytona, pick 10 before race day next Sunday, February 21st to enter, and we wish you the best. 3 Hendrick Motorsports Chevrolets in the top 12, and as we send it upstairs with Jeff, Darrell, and Mike, 78% of the laps led by Hendrick Motorsports last year in restrictor plates, Mike, and it looks like we're on that path again.
Well, they've been fairly dominant, Chris, in the race, but here we're talking about just one lap, and that is the next lap. What I find most interesting about the Fast Four right now, and that's Earnhardt, Kenseth, Kyle Busch, and Chase Elliott. Between those 4 drivers are only 3 restrictor plate poles in Sprint Cup racing. Earnhardt in the 500, Kenseth and Busch in the July race here. So these are not the fellows who win the most poles, but this could be the biggest pole.
No, but you know what I like? I can't tell you how many times, man, if I could have just done that over. Well, guess what? 12 guys get a chance to do it over, and I think it's going to probably benefit Chase Elliott the most because we heard him say, I didn't do a couple of things right that I wish I could maybe do again, so he's going to get that chance.
But just like in that first broadcast I did with you guys last night, and the butterflies in my stomach, that's, you know, the first Daytona 500 qualifying session for Chase Elliott. So I think between him and these other drivers making a few little tweaks and adjustments, as well as the crew chiefs on the cooling and the tape on the front and some of the things they can tweak on, going to be interested to see who can pull off this front row and that pole position.
Will one of those Fast Four be the pole sitter, yes or no?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, we think so. We both agree on that.
Only one of the top 3, in my opinion.
I don't think it's going to be an all-Hendrick front row. He does. I think it'll be a one car on the front row.
Well, Kenseth's trying to mess that up
might mess up
bit.
your plan.
Yeah, that's
going to be interesting. Now, Larry, in these 15 minutes, what can the teams do to these cars?
Well, what you're trying to do is keep all the differential oil, the rear end, the transmission, and the engine oil just as hot as possible, but get that water cooled down. The group I'm the most impressed with, they've always had fast race cars, but they have found single lap speed, and that's Joe Gibbs Toyota drivers. They've always been quick and good in the race like last night, but they've never qualified well. All 4 of them inside that top 12 right now.
"15 seconds will begin the final round of qualifying. Some drivers checking their texts, some checking their mirrors and their belts. And first will be the defending Daytona 500 champion. That is Joey Logano, who won 2 of the 4 restrictor plate races in 2015, the Daytona 500 and the fall race at Talladega. Now, we have a string here that has gone on for 13 years. That's how long it's been since we had a repeat pole sitter in the Daytona 500. 13 different drivers in 13 years.
Well, I was going to say, how about car numbers? Can you consider car numbers being a repeat? That 24 car was on the pole last year. I really think it's going to be very difficult to beat Dale Earnhardt Jr. and that 88 team for this pole today. But I do think that right here, Joey Logano, I don't think he's going to win the pole or be in the front row. I do think he's going to be a big factor in the Daytona 500 next week.
Logano's Shell Pennzoil Ford made it into the final round by 1/1000th of a second.
Yeah, well, he was the last car on the racetrack when qualifying ended in the first round. First car on the racetrack this time. That could be an advantage. I mean, everything's nice and hot in that race car right now. The engine's cool and all the other components are nice and hot. Might help him a little bit.
Yeah, I think it comes down to, did they get the water temperature cool enough? It's nice to have all those other things nice and warm, but it's not, you definitely want to have enough time to cool down all the water in the engine.
Logano is one of 3 Fords in the final round. There are 4 Toyotas and 5 Chevrolets among the cars that will earn a front row position, and that's all that's set today. The rest of qualifying determines the lineup for the Thursday Can-Am duel at Daytona that you will see live on Fox Sports 1 Thursday.
Here he comes.
I'm just really anxious to see some lap times here, because
here we go. Let's see what we got.
This final run.
Yippee!
Sometimes we see him pick up
46-33.
Yeah.
46-28 to a 46-33 in round 1. So that's a half of a tenth pickup.
See what happens.
And you really don't know at this point. I mean, that obviously is a good lap. How will everybody else respond?
Well, and as a team, that's what you're looking for. You want to at least back it up or go a little bit faster than what you did in round 1. You've done your job. Yeah. Once you roll through inspection and that car goes out there, even in round 1, you've done just about all that you can do. And so what you're looking for in round 2 is to at least back that up. You don't want to see your car slow down.
Yeah, I think you just, in your mind, you run that lap that you just did, you run it over again and think, is there anything I can do as a driver? Can I get out on the racetrack quicker? Can I get through the gears better? Can I run a little bit different line to try to pick up a little bit of speed?
And even though these cars practiced yesterday and they practiced similar type things of what we're seeing now, these are under the actual conditions. So that first round was a nice little practice session for every one of these drivers to go through the motions of getting up to speed, getting off pit road, going up through the gears, hitting their marks, hitting their RPM to get the maximum amount of speed out of the cars.
And remember something, Jeff, yesterday, the second time out, the cars were always faster. I mean, they would go in and work them up and come back, they're always faster.
Yeah, I've always seen that happen, and then you start to question how legit are those times because of some of those things. And there's a lot of other cars on the track.
Kurt Busch in the Haas Automation Monster Energy Chevrolet, a 3-time Daytona 500 runner-up, and that's the most by an active driver who has not yet won a Daytona 500.
I don't think I've seen anybody follow that yellow line as tight as what we just saw Kurt Busch did. He's very detailed in his driving. He definitely did everything he could as a driver, and now we're going to see where he ends up.
Now he picks up 6/100ths to Logano's 4, 46-27.
Well, it's better than the last guy that went out, but we just have so many good cars left to go, and I really do believe each one of these cars is going to pick up a little bit.
Yeah, I just feel like the yellow line is your best friend. If you're looking for protection or you want to keep from getting past on the inside, just ride that yellow line. And it's the shortest way around the racetrack for qualifying.
I'll throw one other little thing in there. You definitely want to play the wind. So when you have a headwind, going into turn 1, as you turn into turn 1, you're going to have a little bit of a headwind because it's coming from the back straightaway, and so you might want to keep it a little lower there. As you get over to turn 4, now that wind almost becomes a tailwind, and you want to use that to your advantage to get as much of that tailwind to give you a nice shot and straight run off of 4 and give you a little bit more momentum if possible.
Now, Carl Edwards in the Aris Daytona is a former pole sitter for the 500.
She's spewing.
You see the red line there. That's first and second. Those are the 2 positions that we will decide today. And Edwards is fastest. He picks up 2.5 hundredths to a 46-23.
So not as much pickup as some of the other cars and drivers that went before this, but still better than the two that have gone.
And again, we're going in inverse order of the top dozen, slowest to fastest in round one for this final round. Denny Hamlin has 23 career poles. His best start in the 500 is 4th.
In theory, they should get faster as they go.
Yes.
In theory.
Well,
Probably not a lot, but they should. Every car that goes out should be a little bit quicker.
Yeah, and again, this goes back to those crew chiefs, and we talked about drivers and the little bit of things that they can do with their line. It could have a little bit to do with a gust of wind as well. I see the flags kind of pick up right now as Denny Hamlin heads into turn 3. All those things can have a small factor. We saw where he didn't really pick up down the back straightaway, and he's tracking his 3rd right now. It could have just been that wind.
It is. If you look at the flag, Jeff, it's starting to turn a little bit down the back straightaway, which would hurt your speed as you go down the back, help you in the front. Down the back, not so much.
Denny Hamlin runs right on top of his round one speed at 46.267.
And
These, with 266.
These teams actually have a lot of software that they'll go back and look at after the qualifying session, and will show them exactly when the wind gusted and where they were at on the track, and will tell them if that was a factor in their lap.
So Ryan Blaney, one of the rookie contenders for 2016, driving for the storied Wood brothers, and there's been a lot of discussion on social media about why the Wood brothers did not receive one of the 36 charters issued to full-time teams. And we learned in a meeting today, back in July, the cutoff was decided of the look-back period for when a team ran full-time, and it was the start of the 2013 season to the middle of the 2015 season. That's when the 36 chartered teams were determined, and the Wood brothers had not been full-time, so as of then they knew they would not receive one of those charters.
Look at this thing coming to the line, and again, I think it might be the wind factor.
46.21, that's a pickup of 4/100ths. And the rookie, Ryan Blaney, is fastest.
Look at the times, like we said, to get a 21, a 23, a 26, a 27, and a 28.
And that's just a great boost for that team and for Ryan Blaney coming into 2016. We know it's going to be an amazing rookie battle this year between him and Chase Elliott, but at the same time, they want to get off to a really positive start, and that's a great way to do that.
Jimmy Johnson is one of 4 drivers who could break that 13-year string that goes back to Johnson's first pole in 2002. He also won it in 2008. So he's the last repeater among active drivers on the pole winner list. And look where that tracker is, all the way to the left.
And we had a little in-car shot there of Jimmy's hands, and he is absolutely trying to not move his hands, not turn that wheel any more than he has to. Kind of let that car have its head. Smooth, don't juke on the wheel, come to the line, right on the bottom, bam.
Fastest at a 46.19, that's a pickup of 2/100ths of a second.
19, 21, 23, 26, 27, 28.
Jamie?
And Carl is one of the, well, every driver has picked up since the first round. Carl, are the conditions a little bit different, or is it something you guys learned that you changed the second time?
I don't know. You know, the wind is such a big factor, and the sun, and how much you hit your splitter and all that stuff. But our Harris Toyota is good, and Dave and I are having a good time. Glad I beat Denny at something this weekend so far. And we're just having a good time, and now we'll go race in the qualifiers and hopefully get this thing tuned in. You know, after last night, I'm real excited about racing the 500. I learned a lot and just having a good time.
Nice job. Carl Edwards, 3rd right now.
Talking about the Sprint Unlimited last night, which was won by Hamlin. Here's Austin Dillon, 4 times. Car number 3 has started the Daytona 500 from position 1. It was a Ray Fox Chevrolet driven by Buddy Baker, and then the RCR Richard Childress Chevys. Ricky Rudd, Dale Earnhardt, and Austin Dillon have won 500 poles. Not today, though. Austin Dillon is 3rd, 46.23. That's the first car to fall off from his round 1 time. 3/100ths of a second is the difference.
Yeah, you know, every team does it just a little bit different, or has a way of going about cooling the car down, maintaining those temperatures. It could be when he went versus in the first round versus the final round. So many factors. It could be the wind, a lot of things. And as I mentioned earlier, as the afternoon goes on, that wind seems to kick up a little bit more and get some gusts, and we're seeing little bursts of gusts as some of these cars go down the back straightaway that will definitely affect their time.
What I'm seeing, Jeff, is it was a crosswind, and now it truly is a headwind down the back straightaway. I think we'll see that on our tracker. Cars aren't picking up down the back like they did earlier. Maybe they're picking up a little bit more heading down into turn one, but definitely got a headwind.
Ricky Stenhouse for Roush Fenway Racing, crew chief Nick Sandler. He has one career pole, looking for his first Sprint Cup win. Right now, Ford has the outside front row with Ryan Blaney. Stenhouse is fastest, 46.12. He picked up 6.5 hundredths.
That is a nice job right there. 195.12 miles an hour, 46.12. Nice run.
I mean, that to me is that's your goal right there. You want to pick up 6 or 7 hundredths from that first round to this final round, and they did exactly that. Fantastic job. That's going to pay off for them.
Only the front row locks in today, and right now it's a Ford Chevy front row with Ricky Stenhouse and Jimmy Johnson. The man on track trying to change that in the M&M's Toyota is Kyle Busch. He has one pole on a restrictor plate track, that is Daytona or Talladega, Alabama, and it came here in July of 2013.
Losing a little bit as they get into turn 3, as we're seeing with some of these cars.
As we're watching the 18 coming to the flag, I watched your man, Casey Elliott, take off out of the pits, and I swear he could have made some better time. He stayed on the bottom too long. Looked like he should have jumped out there and got up next to the wall immediately.
See if Jimmy Johnson can hold on to that front row spot. No, Kyle Busch takes it away. 46.10, a pickup of 2 100ths, and it's now a Toyota Ford front row.
I know Chase said he felt like he didn't leave the pits. Well, I just was watching him because of that, what he said, and he took too long to get out next to the wall. I think he could have hopped out there a little quicker, might have made a bit of a difference.
So here's the Napa Chevrolet, the number 24 for Chase Elliott of Dawsonville, Georgia. Now the 24 doesn't have quite the history of the number 3 at Daytona, but it started on pole twice, both with Jeff Gordon at the wheel.
And these next 3 cars, Chase Elliott, Matt Kenseth, and Dale Earnhardt Jr., to me, these are the cars that are really battling for this front row and for that pole position. We see Chase with a really nice pickup. This is the best pickup I've seen so far. Yep. Maybe that wide lane doesn't mean as much as we think it does.
I watched him. I thought, I think he could have helped it a little bit there, buddy, if you'd have done that. That's what everybody else
I didn't even think he ran as high in 3 and 4 as I thought maybe he could have. Wow,
it's picking up.
Yeah, it's looking good.
And the Sprint Cup rookie, the 2014 Xfinity Series champion and runner-up last year, goes to the top, 45.84.
Wow, that's the fastest lap yet.
Good lap, buddy. We'll see.
Oh my gosh.
See where it shakes up. It was a nice pickup there.
Nice pickup.
I'd say
that was nearly
84. So.
That's Alan Gustafson talking to Chase, his crew chief. That was almost 0.2 of a second faster.
Okay, I figured it out. Everybody else was doing it wrong.
You got to give a lot of credit to Alan and all the guys at Hendrick Motorsports in that 2014. They really know how to qualify here for Daytona.
But we're not done. The 2 fastest round 1 drivers have yet to go. Right now, it's a Chevy Toyota front row. Chase Elliott and Kyle Busch, as Busch's teammate, Cambridge, Wisconsin's Matt Kenseth,
and he's
takes
close.
to the track.
He's extremely close. That was a huge pickup. We didn't think anybody was going to pick up that much, but here's Matt Kenseth right there.
He's breathing down his neck, but I don't think he's going to get there.
Kenseth has
if he get a little push off of 4 here.
No, he lost a little bit.
Not going to make it.
Second for Kenseth. Bumps
nice
his
run.
teammate off the front row, 45.91. And that is not quite a 1/10 of a second faster than his first run, but both of these 2 drivers at the top have really picked up from round 1. So Chevy Toyota on the front row, Elliott and Kenseth, and Dale Earnhardt Jr., who has 1 restrictor plate pole here. It was the 2011 Daytona 500. He's out to change all that.
Looks like
down a little bit.
Looks like it's going to be, well, he's not there yet, but, he said it's going to be a Hendrick front row, and we'll see if he's right or not. I think he's pretty good.
Listen, there's something dragging out there. It sounded like something was dragging through the corner.
Yeah, we saw that in the first round. It seems like they really get the back of that car. Maybe they have their skirts a little bit lower. They definitely want it to straighten. Maybe they're going a little faster than they anticipated too. We'll probably hear it down here in 3 and 4 as well. But right now, it looks like Matt Kenseth is going to be the upset to Hendrick Motorsports' front row.
Yeah, he's not gaining on it. Just never quite got there.
Checkered flag. Third for Earnhardt, 45.99. He is 2/100 slower than the first round.
Another
and for
rookie wins the pole.
Man,
the youngest driver ever to start on the pole for the Daytona 500 is Chase Elliott.
Piece of cake.
He becomes the 6th Sunoco Rookie of the Year contender in history to win the pole for the Great American Race. Here is your front row for the 2016 Daytona 500 rookie Chase Elliott. Matt Kenseth on the front row, Chevrolet versus Toyota. At the front of the field, Chase Elliott is the youngest ever pole sitter for the Daytona 500. Your dad won the pole 4 times. Jeff Gordon won it twice in the 24. No pressure, right?
Oh man, this is a very, very cool day. I don't know that this opportunity is sunk in yet, much less sitting on the pole for the Daytona 500. So this is very, very cool. You know, I think the big thing is just the team, and you know, Daytona 500 qualifying is about the team guys and the effort they put into these cars, and it's nothing special I did. It's really just what kind of work they did this offseason to make it happen. So Jeff knows all about that, and just want to give a big thanks to Napa Auto Parts and all of our partners at HMS on this 24 car. This is very, very special and a great way to start the season.
Hey Chase, this is Jeff. Welcome to the 2016 Sprint Cup Series and the Daytona 500. Wow, what an incredible way to get it all started. I know you're going to give a lot of credit to that team for today, but from here on out, the driver is going to play a huge role. How do you get prepared to take this momentum into the duels on Thursday, into the Daytona 500? How do you become the youngest Daytona 500 winner in history?
Well, I think you know how special this group of guys is, and they're do such a good job at all their jobs, and I'm very fortunate to have the kind of group we do. But you know, I think from here, I think I started last night and paying attention to that Sprint Unlimited, kind of watching to see what went on there, try to learn a couple things. I was able to watch from the spotter stand, so I think that was a good thing. I had a chance to go do and just kind of watch from up there and kind of get an idea of what Eddie's going to be looking at when he's making calls over the radio. So I think from here, just trying to understand the draft a little bit more. The duels, I think, will be a big eye-opener for me to try to learn this Cup side a little bit on the drafting, and hopefully we can go from there.
Hey, Chase, this is DW. Listen, you got to take it easy down there. It was hard for me to hold this guy down. I don't know who was more nervous, you or him. He said you were going to win the pole, and after that first go-round, he was getting a little nervous. But you came through for him. Great job by you and the team. And I know you're looking forward to the Daytona 500. What a great honor to start from the pole.
It is, Daryl, and I'm just so thankful for this opportunity. You know, opportunities like this don't come twice, and I certainly want to make the most of this one. This is very, very special, very, very cool way to start our 2016 season with HMS and the 24 car, and like I said, just very honored and blessed to be with the group of guys that we have. I think it's a special group. Alan and this entire team did such a good job on this car over this offseason, and we sure would like to have it to race on Sunday. It's awfully fast, so hopefully we can get through those duels and be smart.
Thank you, Chase. That's one of 2 spots locked in today. Hendrick Motorsports wins the pole. Matt Yoakum is with the outside front row starter for the 500.
For the first time in his racing career, he's on the front row for the Daytona 500. But your biggest issue is trying to chase down and lock in your 3rd Daytona 500. This certainly starts the week out on a great note.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this is a team effort, not really a driver thing. So, although it is the first time I've been nervous qualifying Daytona, I'm like, don't mess up that lap. You want to be in the front row. So, just a big thanks to everybody at JGR. The aero department obviously is a huge part of this. Patrick and all those guys do a great job. Everybody at Toyota and TRD making these Camrys so fast, and Dollar General and DeWalt. We got a great race team. It's yesterday didn't turn out how we wanted to, but we had a lot of speed in all our Toyotas. So, really looking forward to Sunday.
Thanks, Matt. Mike.
Chase Elliott will celebrate the Daytona 500 pole. His crew chief, Alan Gustafson, has now won the 500 pole with 3 different drivers.
It's a special trophy, a lot of tradition, a lot of history. It starts the NASCAR season with a bang and lives with the driver and his race team forever. The Harley J. Earl Trophy 58th running of the Great American Race next Sunday. You'll see it here on Fox. That's what they're shooting for, and that is the 20-year-old. You heard the guys talking about his age. Chase Elliott needed a tardy slip, staying up late in high school. He was late for school the next day. Back in 2014, watching Dale Earnhardt Jr. win the Daytona 500. Remember, delayed by weather, he stayed up late. Now he has a chance to win the Daytona 500 at the age of 20. His father, Bill Elliott, of course, the 3 fastest pole speeds in the history of the Daytona 500, and he clipped it at just over 196 miles per hour.
And there's no driver that has come to Sprint Cup racing with as much anticipation and as much optimism for their success ever, in my opinion, than Chase Elliott. Maybe Dale Jr. A lot of people are talking about Dale getting here, but Chase Elliott has proven that he can do the job behind the wheel. Chris, the first time he went to Darlington in a NASCAR race car, he won at the toughest track on the circuit, and now at Daytona for the first time he's on the pole.
Yeah, and not only the son of Bill Elliott, he's stepping in the 24 car for Jeff Gordon, the 4-time champion of the sport, and this is the way the Can-Am dual starting grid, the first portion. You'll be in the second one. You'll see this on FS1.
Well, I think these guys probably are very apprehensive about rolling off in these Can-Am duels next Thursday night because of what they saw last night. These cars are a handful. You can really draft up. You can make moves. You can pass. The traffic is intense. You want to try to survive these Can-Am duels so you can take your car in the Daytona 500, but sometimes logic doesn't take over.
That's right. And you saw Trevor Bayne. He is the youngest in history to win the Daytona 500. That upset a day after he turned 20 years old. Remember, Jeff Gordon took him under his wing at that time. Now he's got Chase Elliott with a chance to do that. Let's head back upstairs for a look at Duel 2 with Mike, Jeff, and Darrell.
Well, the Joe Gibbs Toyotas will lead them to the flag. Matt Kenseth and Kyle Busch. And Jimmy Johnson, Carl Edwards, Kurt Busch, all 500 contenders. Casey Mears, who just missed making it into the final round. There's a look at the first 4 rows.
As I look at the second duel, the first one's got a lot of fast cars in that first one, and the second one here maybe not so much.
Yeah, but I think that there's contenders in both of these. I know for the first one, Chase Elliott would have rather Dale Jr. been in this second duel to have a shot at winning that one. He's going to be learning a lot from him. But as you move back here to the back, Martin Truex Jr. Obviously that was a big story. We'll follow up on that. But I'm sure he'll be coming up through there to get himself a good starting position for the Daytona 500.
Chris?
All right, thanks, guys. And Ryan Blaney and Matt DiBenedetto working their way, having to race their way in to the duel in the Daytona 500. And there is Bill Elliott. We continue live on pole qualifying day for the Daytona 500. Tonight on Fox, you'll want to stay tuned for The Simpsons, then Bob's Burgers, wrapped up by Family Guy and Border Town. And every NASCAR driver dreams of winning the Daytona 500, but first they have to get into the race and find out who makes the field and where they'll be. The Can-Am Duel races Thursday, 7 Eastern on FS1, streaming live on Fox Sports Go. And next Sunday, the Daytona 500 here on Fox. So 20-year-old rookie Chase Elliott, one of 3 first-timers in the Daytona 500, on the pole, the 14th different pole sitter for the Daytona 500 in the last 14 years. Sitting up there on the front row with Matt Kenseth, 2-time Daytona 500 winner. Thanks for being with us here on Pole Day. From Michael Waltrip, our entire gang, I'm Chris Myers. Always appreciate you being a part of NASCAR on Fox.